fiber optics is here. There are many of you in this room who 3 months ago would have still challenged me if I had said there is fiber coming, it's coming. Yeah, white elephant. Heard this before, old story, will not happen. Who admits it? Hands up. 3 months ago, 4 months ago, who still believed that there is no fiber? That this is all a rumor? One? Yeah, see, yeah, there are some people with courage here and half of the others are liars. Okay, that's fine. So now we have two fiber cables. Who wants to hear about the difference of the cables? Who is interested? From the horse's mouth. Me. So what Blackstone has is a company called Scythe Global, which is building power plants around Africa. One guy within Scythe Global is Brian Hurley. Brian I know since donkey years, even out of the years when he was involved in Africa 1, which never happened. One of the things that died in the dot-com bubble burst. So Brian, when he was anywhere in Africa, there's communication needs for the power plants they're putting up. And a power plant is maybe 300, 500, $1 billion investments. You're not talking small, they're doing it in several countries, plus transmission networks. So Brian convinced his shareholders that it would be a cool idea to finish what he has started in another company, building a fiber, at least starting at the East Coast. He will build one on the West Coast, and we are part of it. But he wanted to build one on the East Coast first. We had long discussions. I was one of the guys who tried to scare him away, because those days we had this deal with FLAG, which the government of Kenya successfully managed to scare away. You see, government involvement can be good. I'm coming to teams. It can be very bad. I'm coming to teams. If I, as the government, declare tomorrow that I will be a mobile phone operator, maybe it will be harder to attract some other people to buy a license as a mobile phone operator if I'm competing with a guy who commands the guns and makes the laws and excise duties and all kinds of funny things. So when we had FLAG willing to bring a cable with a mother company guarantee by October 2007 against penalties, and the capacity was cheaper than on CCOM, and we offered it non-discriminatory open access to the market, the government's response to Reliance those days, the owner of FLAG, was, we will do teams, we don't need you. Reliance came back to me and said, Kai, you know, we do a lot of things in our life. Money is not really the issue, but the belief in the market, if the market itself doesn't want us, and the government is one of the potential big users, if the government wants their own system, this becomes too hot, too risky. We didn't want to get that deep into Africa. You said East Africa is a cool market. We were willing to build the fiber network extension of FLAG, which basically came from Oman down in terms of the juncture point, or Yemen. In front of Yemen was the juncture point. So we said, okay, fair enough, let's do something else. So we went with Brian, we enabled Brian, we looked at the licenses, what needs to be done. Brian did a lot of homework. South Africa was a major nightmare for him, because they demanded that 51% of the investment is coming out of South Africa, which I found a little bit funny, because if every country would demand 51% equity in a cable that lands, no cable would ever be built, because you're connecting at least two cables. And there can't be two 51% shareholders. But finally, Brian, through IPS and Benfin and Black Empowerment and so on, managed to convince South African government that 51% is what he considers 51%, and the rest of the market was fine as well. So Brian was the first one, and CCOM is an end-to-end cable, as we call it. Currently, he's still using CME4 capacity from Mumbai to London, actually to Marseille. He's using CME4 on CCOM. Why? Because he had issues with the Saudi government. This Red Sea is not that wide. So there are economic zones that Egypt and the Saudis are sharing. So he had issues last minute, but Brian, being a good guy, he had promised a date to the market. He went to CME4, he bought capacity at his own cost, and he told everybody that this cable that goes from South Africa, Mozambique, Tanzania, Kenya, then one branch goes to Mumbai, the other branch goes to Europe. So he takes all the capacity to Mumbai. From Mumbai, we're taking all CME4 to Marseille. From Marseille, he is having a contract with Interroute for fiber going to London. That was a demand I had put. I said, no idiot wants to go to Marseille. There's no telehouse there. I don't want to negotiate and later on get squeezed. I want to be in telehouse London, because there I know I can squeeze any operator in the world for the best price possible. So that is currently, I come to Teams, this is one of the risks in the traffic we have into Kenya. Because now we're using CPV4, of course it's a cost to CCOM, which doesn't help us next time we upgrade CCOM. It doesn't help us to get the next upgrade much cheaper. These prices were negotiated. The next prices will be based on what the market gives and what cost Brian has incurred in the meantime. But to be very honest, if he costs $1 million a month extra and does this for 6 months in a $600 million project, it's not that bad. It's a 1% overrun he might be having. And I'm sure he can save it elsewhere. So KDN had signed very early an anchor tenancy agreement, which doesn't look as bad as it sounds. Anchor tenancy just means that I guarantee him an uptake of 10 gigs of capacity from me. I don't have to pay him everything up front, but most of it I'm paying him up front. And I will get preferential treatment from him. If he has somebody to refer he doesn't want to sell personally, or he can't sell because he doesn't have a license to sell, he will refer this client back to me. The prices is he will not undercut his published price list, which he can't anyway because it's all over the African coast. And I'm constantly selling under the price list of CCOM, while my contract states I have to sell cheaper. So my margin technically would be the difference out of the bulk purchase I've done of the 10 gigs and whatever the customer is purchasing. To give you an idea, 10 gigs is $100 million. Currently we have paid $70 million for 5 gigs. The other is an upgrade. So you see for only $30 million more, I'm getting double the capacity. If you take it, that's the problem. So if you work this out, an STM1 is if you take 70 divided by 32, you would be at $2-point-something million for an STM1, correct? Right, math? So I'm selling an STM1 to the market. If somebody buys an IRU today for 20 years, I'm selling it at $2.8 million to cater for my risk, just to give you an idea. If you want to buy an STM4, I'm selling it, I think, at $11 million, which is less than 4 times an STM1. If you buy an STM16, I would sell it to you at, what is it, $40 million. If you want 2 STM16, I would sell it to you at less than $70 million, because then I upgrade and I get the discount out of the STM64 purchase. This is how it works in the market. There's no screwing of the market. There's no malicious intent. KDN does not need to make money out of submarine. The fact is, currently I'm losing money out of submarine. Why am I doing it? Because only if I give you cheap capacity, sooner or later you will use, as Kenyans, more network. If I keep the commodity expensive, you will not need more network, so I can't build out. My motivation is building networks. I'm an infrastructure company. I'm not a Sane. I'm not a Safaricom. I don't have any other revenue line that is material than to provide infrastructure. This little butterfly, what we're doing, it's all teasers for the market, because we want to entice the market to do something creative. But the market, and now I'm talking as a private citizen, not as a KDN CEO, I think this market stinks, to be very honest. People have not believed submarine is coming. The ones that have believed have not done anything about it. Submarine is here. I would say 99% of the market is not ready. People are just whining. Now, sorry, I'm talking privately. You cannot quote me as a KDN. People are just whining the government should step in, prices should be cheaper, in total absence of any knowledge of the economics behind it. People are already calling for government regulation on something that has nothing to do with the government. First of all, no matter what my peer says, he can't regulate prices on a commodity. This is a capitalistic environment. If you change the constitution and you let me swear on the Mao Bible, then maybe we can change the way we're doing business. Price regulation is against the constitution.